All right. So we are back with the third episode of Vantage Voices. I'm Rachel Barclay, and I'm the founder of the Vantage Network and the host of Vantage Voices. And with me today, I have our second episode and founding member of Vantage, Roger Starkweather.
Hello. Good afternoon. Thanks, Rachel. I'm honored. Oh, go ahead. No, I'm honored
So
to be here. Just really honored to be here, and thank you so much for making this a reality. So good. Let's do this.
yeah, when we'll get into sort of how long we've known each other and the origin story and all of that. But an interesting thought is our second episode, Jesse Rhodes Jr. You're already famous on the podcast for what it's worth because he mentioned you in that episode and he told the story of hugging you for 3 minutes in both the first two episodes. So what's it like being on the receiving end of that much Jesse?
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. Everyone needs to be on the receiving end of that much, Jeffy. So there's that in life. So there's that. But no, I think the greatest thing as we move forward is that where we've all come from has baseline community, right? So we've got to be this kind of tight, connected group of people who just really enjoyed each other's company, supported each other in visions. And I think, where we were in the past of the Columbia Tower Club with its physical walls, it's just a great opportunity to continue. So Jesse and I continue to have a personal and a professional relationship, and I will hold him accountable and keep him honest.
I love that. Yeah, when he said he had hugged you for 3 minutes, I thought to myself, "You know what? When I saw Roger after a long time, I hugged him for longer than normal." And then I started to think about how long 3 minutes really was, and it just made me laugh a little bit.
Pretty much,
And
yeah.
so as we get more episodes of this, people will start to understand the cadence of it. But what we like to do is start with who you are, what you do, and what changes for them when you do it.
Yeah. So I'm excited to say that I am the chief experience officer of a new brand, which is a branding marketing agency for what we call do good organizations. So those who want to make a difference in life, we pretty much don't work with assholes. So if you want to bleep that out, you can. But no,
No, keeping
we're
it
just
in.
yeah, no, we're at this place of transformation, clarity, and trust, and I think this is what we really do bring to our clients. My business partner, Stephen Picanza, and I have known each other for 15 years, and Rachel, you've gotten to know Stephen a little bit through the years, but when you work with your best friend and when you work with somebody you trust, the net result for the clients is magic. So we have a great day.
Yeah, and he's on the East Coast. I remember meeting Steven through COVID virtually when I was at the Pyramid Club. That's how I met him originally and then came full circle as our connections do. And
Yeah.
so your origin story, so a new brand, ever since I've known you, I think for the last 4 years, that's been what you do. But before that, you spent a lot of time with a lot of big companies that are very well known. So, and I might be missing a few, so correct me if I'm wrong, but Nordstrom, Starbucks, REI, L'Oreal. And then you came to a point where you decided, let's do our own thing. And so you and Steven built a new brand for the startups, scale ups, and nonprofits. And as you said, people who are doing good. What did you see from inside the giants, if that was the case, that made you go, I need to build this for the opposite of that?
Yeah, yeah. Well, it's life has a way of putting pathways in your place, and either you choose to go down that pathway or choose to rebel against it. And this particular opportunity came up where Steve and I were really frustrated with the agency work as a whole, like the big agency models that really took advantage of clients. That in conjunction with my own personal transformation of coming out was one of these pathways that I had to really pick and choose to say, am I going to be just raw and honest as much as I can be about who I am as a person and tying that to what I want to do in life, and that is to give back and help others. So it kind of all collided together at the same time. And again, Steve and I knowing each other so long, it was just time to, you know, as they say, open the kimono and be okay with everything. So
I love that. I love that. I think I'm in my own open the kimono moment for what it's worth. So,
right. Yeah.
so I
A year prior that the club had blessed me with the presidency of the board. Like, I didn't come into the world searching for this. It was just one of these amazing gifts that was given to me. And so, how I showed up, had a voice, I had to figure out. And I was fortunate to be surrounded by amazing individuals like Jesse, Katrina, Eric, and then later yourself. So,
I hadn't planned on talking about this, but since a lot of the founding members and those who are seeing Vantage are, as I'm calling them, Columbia Tower Club expats, I want to talk a little bit about sort of your journey with the club. I know some people have been at the club for 20 years in some cases. Some of the employees were there for 20 years, right? And
Yeah.
I joined there in 2023 after having been at two other clubs, and you were pretty new to the club.
So 2021, 2022 kind of came. COVID was hitting us hard, and there was no real direction. Rachel, you haven't worked for the corporation. I'll be real transparent because everyone knows this. Within my 7 years of tenureship, we had 5 general managers.
Mhm.
You were the best, by the way. I'm just going to put that on
Thanks.
record.
That's why I asked the question.
But
No, I
on
did.
top,
That's not true.
no, of course not, of course not. But on top of that, it was that kind of like feeling your way through it. All right, and the only thing that made sense to me was to consistently show up. Right, and I became what some called the mayor, the face of the club, et cetera, just because for me personally, I had to show up and try to figure out where my life was going to help take us. But now, also being the first openly gay chair of the club, I knew I could make some impact and a difference. And I now, looking back all these years, have been really honored to have that role and responsibility. So, yeah.
Yeah, I remember actually when I was in San Jose at the time as the
Mhm.
GM at Silicon Valley Capital Club, which unfortunately is now closed as well. Maybe Vantage will be a solution in San Jose, but I remember meeting you for the first time on the lobby level of Columbia
Yeah.
Center. I remember where we
Yeah.
were sitting, almost what you were
Yep.
wearing, not what you were wearing.
Yep.
I'm just like, I don't know. I feel so compelled to do this because first there was the letter that somebody wrote, but secondly, there was just how much I believed what you were telling me. And it was like, these are the things that we do. And you weren't trying to be my best friend by any means. You were just being real and honest and like, what is it that you do? What do you think you could bring to the table? This is what we're dealing with here. And this is what we need to move
Hmm.
forward. And to me, it was so impactful to me and my decision making with my family to move here because I didn't think you were trying to grease me up. It just felt like I'm the advocate for the community that I'm in charge of. And I think now, having known you a little better, it makes sense because not only at the time that you took over the board chair position at the club, you also were becoming fully visible yourself. And so, in turn, I think, I don't know whether on purpose or not, you helped the community become more visible. And so, I wanted to talk a little bit about sort of that coming out story as it pertains to your experience at the club and sort of how those two sort of moved in the same direction.
Yeah. Well, I think you kind of, used a word that we use a lot, and that is community. The community is made up of diverse individuals. Community is made up of all sorts of like-minded and not like-minded individuals. And the promise of having a community that thrives is one that is intentionally aligned, I guess. And so out of action and out of consistency, like I was mentioned earlier, turning a tanker is not easy. It takes a lot of consistency and work and camaraderie, right? And so I think coming out of COVID, specifically when you came aboard, there was an energy source that all gave us hope. And I think having hope and vision is what people react to as humans, right? And with that in mind, the next 2 years for me in my position, and then once Jesse kind of took over, was magical and pivotal in many ways. Like everyone at the club thrived, membership thrived. Corporate may have a different point of view on this stuff, but from a being in the moment kind of element, people were ecstatic finally and happy that the club was doing these amazing things. And again, you were a catalyst and all that. And so having Vantage be an extension of what your early visions were is just natural. So I love it.
Well, you were you were so I mean, we tried like this app and we tried this other app. And then they were like, we're closing. I'm like, we're going to start with an app. What the heck are we doing? And then I'm like, I know I'm like coding this whole thing and I don't even know how to code. And I think your advocacy, not only for the community there, but also for, the LGBTQI community is so important because the things that we were trying to do at the club, and we did accomplish, we're definitely making sure are like front and center for Vantage. And the really exciting part is that we get to build it our way because we're building
I
with
love
each other.
I love that. As a matter of fact, you can go back and when you interview Katrina, she'll have this a moment in time. 6 years ago, we tried to start this program, with a general manager who was an interim general manager, and they were like, "Oh, you can't have access to our books, and you can't do these. Members are private." And we're like, "Oh my god, get out of your own way, people."
I know.
Anyway,
That's the interesting part is that I'm like uniquely positioned because I spent so much time trying to figure it out from the operator standpoint. I know what I wish I had as a general manager, as an operator, and even before I was a general manager, quite frankly. But now, because of how much support I have from you and Katrina and Jesse, and even beyond that, the people that are through your networks, we can do the thing that we were told no, and we love to do those kinds of things.
I so commend you on that. I love it. Thank you. Yeah, yeah.
Okay, and so with everybody that becomes a Vantage member, we start with what can you give? Just sort of trying to turn that culture that sometimes can go the other direction is if we lead with
Yeah.
give first. And I know you're such a giving person, so I don't need to tell you that. But what is something that you think that you can bring to the community that is either unique to you or that just comes freely that you love doing? What's something
Well,
like
my
that?
my superpower has always been the ability to connect the dots. That is, your dot meets to match up with this dot or whatever the case might be. But I don't know. It's just I've been honored to meet so amazing many people. You go through life never burning a bridge, and then all of this kind of serendipitously kind of melts and comes together. So my superpower is connection and community.
Yeah, I agree with that. What would happen if I didn't agree with that?
I would I
No,
I I
it's
would
not.
say I would say you're wrong, but
Yeah,
that's
I
okay.
know. That's true, and you have done that, so that's true for everybody who's watching. Yeah, okay, and then on the other side of it, and sometimes people who are giving all the time as a giver, you're not always able to say what you need and what you would like to receive. So who are you looking to meet? What are you looking to get from Vantage? Something professional, personal, community-based, whatever sort of comes to mind. There's no right answer, obviously.
Y that's a great answer because, to be honest, Jesse and I were together last week catching up, and this topic of, like, giving to others to the point where you don't really give to yourself, right, is a void, and it's one of these things that people at this level, at these calibers, don't I'm only just kind of just stating obvious things, but we forget about giving it to ourselves. So I think in a network like this, if we could all remember to uplift each other and to give
Mhm.
praise to each other, that goes a long way. That goes a long
It
way. So for me
it really
personally,
does.
from a business perspective, we want to work with clients that are looking for true, authentic clarity in their brand campaigns, in their brand messaging. Like I said earlier, do good organization. So we're not going to work with everyone, and we've said no to lots of people. But from a personal standpoint, just be kind and give back wherever you can.
Yeah. I wanna get a little bit more into so what's the perfect organization or company? And I know that's a hard question, but, like, maybe even in what state just so I can think of and people who watch this can think of, like, "Oh, I know an
Mm.
organization like that that is really looking for a branding agency like
Yeah.
Rogers."
Well, it's actually twofold. So there are the clients that absolutely need a new name, a new vision, a new platform, a new reason to believe, the messaging and the standpoint of all that. But then if you've got a standard brand guideline and you're already kind of baked in your brand, and maybe you don't know how to do that campaign where you're trying to raise funds or you're trying to reach that milestone in your business organization, how can we help you tell that story better?
Mm.
And we can tell the story through all sorts of lenses, but storytelling is probably one of the most exciting things we get to do.
And what is the best way to get in contact with you? And this is not a chance for you to say through Vantage. That's one way, but is the best way through your website? What's the best way for people to get in contact with a new
But,
brand?
LinkedIn is always that one constant that everyone's using, so there's that, but a newbrand.co is our website, and probably the best way to just kind of check us out, who we really are, and see if that's a match.
Yeah. And you can always comment if no matter what platform you see this on, if you see it on any of the digital streaming platforms or on LinkedIn, just comment and we can always connect you with Roger too.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Before I forget, actually,
Yeah,
one other thing. So I
sure.
think a big part of the outcropping of all my experiences at the Columbia Tower Club and now moving into the World Trade Center, which is our new home, has been the world of philanthropy and the world of giving back. And I'm just so honored that I got to play a role in making the club at the time. somewhat of a beacon for philanthropy.
Mhm.
That wasn't always as strong as it was over the past year. So again, giving back and making sure that there's connection.
Yeah, and I'm glad you mentioned that actually because so the public directory part of Vantage, you can list any business for free, including especially nonprofits, right? And I know you're right. You absolutely brought that to more of the forefront or maybe around again, as it were, at the club. And now you're doing the same thing at World Trade Center. And do you have a monthly event that you do where you highlight nonprofits,
We're
or is
working
it
on that. So
evolving?
it's evolving,
Yeah.
but we have an official nonprofit committee,
Hmm.
and I've been honored to be again leading the charge. The chairs there. We have signature programming called the Good Gathering, and so that's happening August 12th.
August
But
12th.
yeah, there's all sorts of things happening, and it is progressing. So
Can anybody go to the Good Gathering on August 12th?
absolutely.
Okay, great. We'll put a link to that or a way for people to go to that because I know people are always looking to go to purposeful programming like that. Okay, well, we're almost at the end, but I have some fun quick fire things if you will
Okay, good.
oblige me. Okay,
Go for it.
so let's see. A brand, big or small, whose brand experience are you admiring right now? Could be big, could be small. Is there some kind of branding moment that you're like, whoa, that was pretty incredible?
Mm, that's a great question. The one that I always
Maybe.
fall back to is Patagonia, to be honest. I love how they're mission driven and they're respectfully irreverent and telling them exactly who they are all the time. And I think so, yeah, for us, and especially it's a local crowd from the Pacific Northwest. So they've
Ooh,
always been one of my favorites.
respectfully irreverent. I love that. I aim to be respectfully irreverent. Sometimes I drop the
It's a
first
good
thing.
thing. It's a good thing to shoot for.
And then, what is the last thing that genuinely inspired you?
My kids. I have three amazing humans that are
You do.
moving about the world globally as artists and creators. And I will probably leave you guys with this. In my personal journey through everything, I kind of feel like there's three words that all of us as humans can live by, and that is create, learn, and love.
Oh, I love that. Spoken by a branding genius. All right. Well, thank
So,
you so much, Roger. I'm glad we could get together and record this episode. To everybody listening, you can find this on all DSPs and on the joinvantage.co/podcast. Thank you, Roger, for joining us, and we'll see you on the next episode. Bye.
all right, you got it. Thank you, Rachel. Ciao.